Hi, good morning. So, how are you? I'm still traveling in California, but about to leave for Las Vegas in a day and then to New York. And I'm continuing my daily podcast with you, answering your questions. And the questions keep coming in from readers of You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self, and Why It Matters. I'm just adjusting the light here a little bit. So the book is You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. And we are engaging with each other in this wonderful forum every day, not one day missed in the last few weeks. And I'm doing my best to answer your questions. So today's question is from Mike Abraham. He says, Dr. Chopra, I've read all of your materials and have been following you for years. I have one puzzling question that I simply cannot find the right answer for. So you're asking me, maybe I can't find it too. Why do humans in some countries suffer and are less privileged than others? Example, poverty stricken in many third world countries, people who live in slums. Well, that's also true, by the way, of the United States, but I get what you mean, much more in some parts of the world. Yes, many of this can be attributed to the corruption and incompetence and greed of governments or people. However, the larger question I have is this. Did the soul or life energy, now you're getting complicated, choose to be born in the physical realm to certain parents in certain countries where they cannot escape the harsh reality even by using power of intention, attention, etc. Example, the so-called untouchables of India, the lepers who die under horrible circumstances, etc. I have witnessed many of the above and I resorted to religion to explain this but could not find an answer. Why is the universe unfair and unbalanced in this aspect? There are innocent people who are simply victims of circumstances. Take kidnapped children as an example. Was this the choice of the soul, spirit, life energy before they were born into the physical realm? I'm looking for an explanation. Love your book and materials. Great job you have done for humanity. That's very sweet and kind. Thank you so much, Mike. So let's try and answer this question. Okay, first of all, simple observation shows us that there is a lot of suffering in the world. Correct? I think we cannot deny it. There's exploitation, there's child slavery, there is abuse of minorities, there is gun violence, there is radical poverty where almost 50% of the world lives on less than $2 a day, and of that a significant amount of the world in less than $1 a day. There's suffering from the micro to the macro scale. You know, diseases like malaria, tuberculosis and AIDS still ravage parts of the world. Attempts are made by people to alleviate all this suffering, and a lot of progress is made, but it seems like we're constantly on the treadmill. We cannot actually change the fundamental fact that there is human suffering and that it's inflicted by humans to other humans. Now, of course, Mike Abraham also raises why are some children born in those circumstances, etc., etc. So, Mike, I'm going to do my best to answer this question, and sometimes the most metaphysical question can also be the most, can also get us the most practical answer. So do not worry if my answer seems initially if my answer initially seems too metaphysical or too spiritual or too high flown, but let's do it and then see what the practical aspect of that is. So, do animals suffer? Of course, animals also suffer, but there is a lot of senseless suffering in humans. We have created constructs like money, governments, businesses, and as a result of having created these constructs and still having the predatory instinct inside us, we want everything for ourselves. Shabuddin, thank you for sharing this video with others. So, we have created, I said, constructs like money, business, governments, nation states, and having created these constructs, we are still, of course, emotionally and spiritually predators. We have been the most successful predator. So we exploit people for money. There's been slavery, there's now child slavery, there is intense racism, there's mechanized death, there's eco-destruction, on and on, but there's a lot of suffering from disease, lepers, untouchables, although that is illegal now in India, but exploitation in every form or another, political corruption, corruption in the business world. So time and again these have been addressed, but no progress is made, or if progress is made, it is so slow. It is very, very slow. We are told there's less violence today than there was 100 years ago, but all you have to look at the news and every day there's violence. So let's go to the most extreme explanation for this that comes from Eastern wisdom traditions, and they say that the cause of all suffering, is the illusion of the separate self. Okay, as long as we do not understand that our true self is inseparable from all consciousness or universal consciousness, or from the consciousness of each other, as long as we do not feel that the true self is not separate, as long as we do not feel that at the deepest level of our being, there will be human suffering and exploitation. And then poverty gets recycled, situations get recycled, cultures get recycled, religious ideologies get recycled, and weapons get more sophisticated. And now we have the internet, and we have cyber warfare and hacking, and on and on and on, because our creativity, which is an amazing gift we have as humans, and it's spontaneous creativity, our creativity and our intellect have outpaced our emotional and spiritual development. And so when that happens, then we recycle the suffering of the world. You go into history and you'll see it's always been like this, from slavery in the time of the Greeks to human sacrifices in all ancient cultures, and exploitation of monarchs and kings in the name of empire. We can see that human history is the history of human suffering. And the spiritual answer is that we are unaware of that self, that true self, which is inseparable from all that exists. So if we could go to that level of existence, to that level of being, then spontaneous compassion and joy and love and empathy would compel us to help each other, would compel us to take care of each other, would compel us to love each other. Not because it's some kind of morally self-righteous duty. Nobody does anything out of a sense of duty, because they sooner or later get exhausted and start to feel guilt. Stephen Altman, 25 others shared your video. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone. We're expanding our conversation. So then, of course, we are not in touch with ourselves, not knowing our true self. Takes away our peace of mind, creates anxiety, creates anger, creates resentment, creates grievances, creates hostility, creates inflammation in our body-mind, and that projects as inflammation in the ecosystem of relationships, and that extends into everything, into the earth, and ultimately the biosphere, climate change, and then refugees, and soon climate refugees, and then violence, and then more corruption, and the cycle goes on and on. Omar, thank you for sharing the video with others and all of you. So the first step for you, if you want to alleviate your own suffering, is get in touch with your true self through reflection. Ask yourself, who am I? What do I really want to do with my life? Do I feel the suffering of others? What am I going to do? Not out of activism. Activism works for a while, but angry activism sooner or later exhausts its energy and peters out. So start with yourself. Shift into awareness from your ego identity to your true identity. This is done through meditation and reflection, transcendence, metacognition, mindfulness, and living the questions that are most important to. Who am I? What do I want? Do I feel the suffering of others? Am I compelled to do something about it? So alleviate your own suffering by going beyond your separate self. And then alleviate the suffering of those close to you, your friends, family, by giving them attention, which means listening to them, by giving them appreciation, noticing their good qualities, by giving them affection, which means caring for them, by giving them acceptance, which means not trying to change them. So when you start with yourself and you extend it to your friends and family, and they extend it to their friends and family, and on, then we could possibly have a critical mass, and that's why the social media is so important. We could have a critical mass that would move us all in the direction of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier world. I think it's incorrect to say that the universe is unfair. The universe is our construct, it's our projection. So we cannot blame anyone, and we can't even blame ourselves, because in the history of evolution, which I think is the evolution of the consciousness of species, we are a new species, only 200,000 or less years old, and with the development of language, we have had the explosion of intellectual and creative capacities, but we have not focused on our emotional and spiritual development. When we start to focus on our emotional and spiritual development together, then we can change what can only be called the collective karma. So the collective karma is nothing to do with guilt or collective guilt. It just means that our collective evolution is at very early stages of development. We are still part of the food chain, and now that we have eliminated other species, we have also found ways to eliminate each other and get rid of the well-being of our planet and ecosystem. It is my earnest hope, that's why I'm here every day on these forums, and also this book is an extension of this thinking that has now permeated the collective consciousness. Number one, you are not your ego, you are not the separate self, you are the self that is inseparably woven into the elements and forces of the universe. Number two, you have infinite creativity beyond your ego mind, and in that level of inseparable being, there is also love, compassion, joy, equanimity, truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, and evolution, which are spontaneous. And these spontaneous activities that emerge, love in action, and the feeling that arouses that love in action doesn't require a lot of intellectual capacity. It requires harnessing the more fundamental truth of the universe, which is love, as the ultimate truth at the heart of the creation, which is inseparability of being. Now, the karma will recycle for a while because it has dominated our world culture, but as we change, hopefully, human suffering will also change. Don't go into the slums because you feel guilty. Go into the slums because over there you will find people actually more innocent, and in many cases more compassionate, because they are more aware of each other's sufferings. We have a program in New York called the Urban Yogis, where these kids from the hood who were previously very violent have actually gotten together, become yoga teachers, meditation teachers, and these boroughs of New York, Queens, etc. are seeing a renaissance thanks to the efforts of Erica Ford and Eddie Stern and all the young kids who are growing up to be self-aware beings. Check out the Urban Yogi program, Google it, and you'll see what I mean. In the meanwhile, I'm very grateful that you are joining us here, and that we are engaging in this conversation, and that we shall continue to engage in this conversation so that we can continue to pursue excellence. And as we do that, even if we ignore success, it will come to us, because the whole world will be behind us. Thank you very much.